Welcome to Sports from the Couch.
I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
With your host, Mike Mercado.
Players cannot stand him. Coaches cannot stand him. Most importantly, the fans can't stand him.
Brought to you by Mercado Airwaves.
I'm gonna say it once, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
That is so bad, that is absolutely brutal.
Hello and welcome in, friends, to another edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. And on this edition of Sports from the Couch, we need to talk about Justin Fields being named QB1 for the Chicago Bears against the Cleveland Browns in Week 3 of the NFL season. But before we get to that, let's take care of some housekeeping notes. You can follow us all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media. You can follow the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk and see what we're up to behind the scenes on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media. Check us out on the video version on youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Hit that little bell and subscribe button to be notified every single time we upload a brand new episode. We're also on ROKU. Shout out to Jerry Riles and the Rewind Sports 60, the home of Sports from the Couch on ROKU. We're also on all major podcast platforms, so download us, like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. We're on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network, on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves, and you can support the network. We're on Patreon, patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, and on Teespring, teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves as well. And if you would have a question, a comment that you would like shown here on the show, send us an email over at sportsmercadoairwaves@gmail.com. That's sportsmercadoairwaves@gmail.com. I would like to remind you also that our last 6 to 7 p.m. radio show live on Chicago will be this coming up Sunday. I believe that is the 26th. That is our last live show. We are then moving from 9 to 10 p.m. on WCPT on Sunday, so we will still be your home for a post-game show for the Chicago Bears. You can also check us out on Twitter at SportsCubicleTV to keep up to date every single time we upload a brand new episode, or every single time we are live on the radio. And, of course, keep up to date with everything we're doing on the network from the Good Brothers, the Two Nerds of a Feather podcast, the Gone Missing podcast, Murder Mysteries, and more. Of course, Sports from the Couch, the Sports Cubicle, and our interviews with athletes and celebrities, following us on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. So let's get right into it, guys. Justin Fields has been named the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Coach Matt Nagy has announced that Justin Fields will be our starting QB against the Browns. This was via the Bears on Twitter earlier on this afternoon. Nagy then says, Nagy calls Dalton week to week with left knee injury. Nick Foles will be the backup on Sunday against Cleveland. He says when Dalton is healthy, the plan is for him to be the starter again. I got that from Brad Biggs. We source him a lot. He is from the Chicago Tribune, one of the best beat reporters in the business. And we also have a quote from Justin Fields, quote, I think I'm ready. I've been preparing for this moment for a long time. So Justin Fields is ready, and it is go time. So there's a few things we need to get to, and before we kind of dig deep into what this all means heading into week 3. But I guess the first thing that we notice is week to week that Andy Dalton, it looks like it was a bone bruise, and there's no muscle tears, so no surgery needed. I think it's fascinating that we found out this early. And he did mention that it's just all steam ahead, that he wants this to just be as, doesn't want this to be a hindrance or a roadblock or just a talking point for the entire week. So shout out to Matt Nagy for saying that. But I think this is the end of Andy Dalton as a Chicago Bear when it comes to being a starter. I don't think this is the last time Andy Dalton plays for the Chicago Bears this season. I definitely think in today's NFL and as many games they play, it is starting this season, it's going to take its toll. Something's going to happen, or Justin Fields is going to have a rookie game, and Andy Dalton's going to come back in. But we're going to talk about all that in just a little bit. But yes, we do know this coming Sunday against the Cleveland Browns, the Chicago Bears will have Justin Fields under center as their QB1. And I mean, we've gotten to this point, right, as Bears fans here in the greatest city in the world, Chicago IL. Whenever our community gets together here on Sports from the Couch on Mercado Airwaves, thank you guys so much for making us a part of your day. We've been talking about that this day was coming. I think the Bears have always had week 3 and week 4 in the calendar for Justin Fields to be the starting quarterback, for him to get the job from Andy Dalton. I do think they're either naive enough or they don't have enough common sense when it comes to the level of intellect they need in the NFL compared to some of these other teams, that he would be, in the best case scenario, Andy Dalton would win games, you would make the playoffs, and Justin Fields wouldn't have to play. But we knew that's not the reality in the NFL. And the reality in the NFL is you have to be okay with your guy learning on the job because it makes the most sense financially. And we're in a league where there's so much turnaround, and you can move ahead. You can move forward. You can make decisions a lot quicker than you did before. Like before when the Rams had to get Sam Bradford, or when you're paying these guys crazy money as rookies. So the Bears, I think, are in a better position today than they were yesterday. There are plenty of things we're going to break into when it comes to what it means with Justin Fields starting now. But I think the Bears are in a better position for their franchise moving forward. Are they in a better spot to win this Sunday? Maybe. There's an argument to be made one way or the other. But I do know, moving forward, for the future of this team, this is the best decision they can make. So, my first question. What will it take for Andy Dalton to get back to QB1? Because what kind of game does it need to be for Justin Fields and the Bears for Justin to keep QB1? So let's say the Bears win, and he doesn't have a great game, but he manages it. The Bears find a way to beat Cleveland. They're 2-1 now. Are you going to bring in Andy Dalton? Let's do it this way then. Let's say Justin Fields doesn't have the craziest of game, but has a really good game, and the Bears lose. Are you going to bring back Andy Dalton? Even if you lose and you throw 4 interceptions like Zach Wilson, or you throw 3 in a row like Joe Burrow, are you going to replace it with Andy Dalton? Again, it's one thing if they're in the middle of a game and they're able to say, all right, kid, it's not your day. Pick up the clipboard. This is what we've learned. We'll look at tape next week. But I don't think you could go backwards anymore. And every one of those scenarios is viable and also valuable. Let's say you have a Zach Wilson game. 4 interceptions, you just look bad. Like he did against, New England? Let's say he just looks bad. Well, then you learn something. Then there's something on film. And you've seen him have some type of adversity and see him when it's not going his way. That's in its own value. And if any other scenario, if you're either in a game or you win a game because of Justin Fields, that's what you want. If you're going to lose a game, you want it to be losing with Justin Fields getting better, learning on the job. You don't want to be losing games with Andy Dalton under center. What value for your organization, not just Justin Fields, but for your organization, what value do you get from that? And I believe in loyalty, but I also understand that what loyalty brings to your organization if it's a detriment. Why would you do that? And I like Andy Dalton. He seems like a trooper. Shout out to him because he seems like a good teammate and a tough dude. But we all know how cold-blooded this business is. So I'm fascinated for what the fan base must think of how the front office is handling this. And I guess we have an idea because we've seen it all over social media. So if Justin Fields is starting, will the scheme and or the game plan change? Because this is my thinking, right? Everybody's been talking about this because there was that controversy with Brad Biggs and Matt Nagy about the way he answered a question about who's the starting quarterback. You know, that's not a personnel question, is a scheme question. And some people agree with that, some people don't. So essentially, the theory is, if you don't understand, and, you know, it took me a second to kind of get what people were saying is, if it's a personnel question, right, it's who's on the field. Well, that shouldn't be telling you a scheme until you start thinking, well, yeah, it kind of is one and the same. It may not tell you the exact, wideout routes like you would in Madden, but it is something like you learning who the RB1 is, who the 2 wide receivers are, who's playing a slot, so on and so forth. Like, that is something. And there is some value to that. But I do think that the scheme stays the same no matter who's at quarterback. What changes is the game plan. What are you going to allow Justin Fields to do? Are you going to move the pocket? Are you going to let him roll out? Are you going to do things that he does great in and try to hide some of his deficiency? Are you going to run the ball? Are you going to let David Montgomery do what he's been doing? Look, he's not Derrick Henry, right? Like, I think we can all agree with that. He's not on that level of running back. Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, like, he's not there. Dude's a stud. Use him. And not just in the running game. Use him in the passing game. And I also think you don't need to be so cute. You just let guys play football. As crazy as meatball as that sounds, like, you don't need to be so cute. So that's kind of the big story about this. If you're looking for the pessimistic side, or you're looking at something to aim at towards the front office and the coaching staff, are they really gutsy enough to go out there and let Justin Fields play one way or the other, minus like the worst injury ever, knock on wood, and really put back Andy Dalton out there? And if let's say they do believe this, or they don't at all, why are they going so hard in the paint about Andy Dalton's the starter? Why has this been such a confusing mess consistently over and over again? You having Matt Nagy say one thing and then the PR person has to say something else right afterwards. Matt Nagy didn't understand that question. Really? Because Brad Biggs asked it 3 different times. It was really interesting to see how they've handled that entire situation. But we're here now. We know, at least for week 3, Justin Fields will be starting for the Chicago Bears. So I guess the next thing that I'm looking at is, what exactly should we be looking for when it comes to Justin Fields and him playing? Because there are a couple things that you need to keep an eye out. First of all, how he handles play calling. We may be all excited about Justin Fields, and we sure are here at Sports from the Couch. You guys know from day one, I thought he should have been starting from day one. There are a lot of mistakes that he made against Cincinnati. And, 2 of them being the false starts. Like, he's got to learn that. He's got to learn not to get small in the pocket when he's getting pressure and he's got to throw the ball, right? Like, there's certain things he's got to do, and we'll talk about some of them. But how he handles play calling, how he handles seeing what a coverage looks like, or breaking down a defense at the line, and we saw him do that. That's what you're looking for. It would be wonderful if the Bears find a way to win this game. But there are little things that we need to check boxes for Justin Fields. And the first thing is how he handles the huddle, how he handles the handoff, how he handles when he's under center. All these things matter. All these things are going to be part of his development. And you got to get these things down, because you know who doesn't make mistakes like that in big moments are guys like Patrick Mahomes and a Russell Wilson and a Tom Brady. Those guys don't make mistakes like that. You got to get them out. And again, if he's going to make those type of mistakes, make them now. Do them now. Where you're not going to win a Super Bowl, even if you're competitive in some games, you're going to try to be in division race. That doesn't change the fact that you're not winning anything of significance. So let him make his mistakes now. The other thing I'm looking for when it comes to like mechanics and little things is in the pocket. I'm not talking about being a statue, Joe Flacco, and just, trying to use your arm and throw it 60 yards. What I mean is, let's say the pocket is collapsing. The best know how to just move to the left, move a little bit to the right, move up the pocket. Just kind of change the pocket within themselves. And just hold off a little longer to wait for their guy to get open to make that big play. Justin Fields is going to have to get it out of his system that it's not just a speed race. The best for Justin Fields is when the offensive line is rolling and he's just got to beat that one guy coming off the edge. That's that type of thing. What you don't want him to do is constantly having those happy feet and trying to roll out. I think you want him just, again, sometimes, just see that he can do it. Because that's going to be the big difference for him. That's going to be the big thing for him, is to see him do those little things, including a quicker release. He does have a little bit of that baseball in him where it's just this long windup to try to get it there. Now, it's not so exaggerated, but it's something he's going to have to learn. And it's something he's only going to learn going against live defense and going against his own number ones on practice throughout the week. These are things you got to look for. I'm interested in what Matt Nagy does. Is he going to be so hard-headed, so stubborn, to say, no, we're going to do it this way and not open up the playbook in a way that it benefits Justin Fields. That's going to be the entire thing. Like, we know. Look at when Matt Nagy calls offensive plays. They average 20 points a game. That's not good enough. And I'm not saying Bill Lazor is this offensive guru, but it was better. It catered more to what Mitch does. And that's what you got to do with Justin Fields. It is an exciting time for Justin Fields to be the starting quarterback. It is a tough game against Cleveland, but you're playing Cleveland that's a little banged up. He saw live action. He's got to get a road game in. It's going to be a loud one. He's going to make dumb mistakes on the line. It's going to happen. But better now. I'm okay with mistakes being made as long as they're Justin Fields mistakes. Because that's better for your organization moving forward. And I appreciate the Bears right now for one thing. I thought they were going to drag this on a lot longer. I thought we were going to wait a lot longer. And I know I keep going back to it. I can't see them going back to Andy Dalton. Not in a starting role. I said it earlier here on Sports from the Couch, here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Thank you guys so much for making us a part of your day. I said it earlier on in the episode. I don't think Andy Dalton is going back to starting quarterback. I do think there's going to be a game that he comes in. I do think there's going to be rough patches for Fields. I do think that he's going to close out a game. He might even come back in a game. It might be a blowout. Andy Dalton isn't done throwing a football for the Chicago Bears. But I do think Justin Fields is the starting quarterback moving forward. And if you're able to sneak a win against Cleveland, and then you got Detroit the next week, like, things are looking pretty good for the Bears. And as a fan, for a fan perspective, the Bears are so much more of a compelling team now to watch. Because they do have their young stud out there. We did see him miss 2 big plays because his receivers didn't make a play for him. And you're not going to call out Allen. You're not going to call out Allen Robinson because he's a stud. He's helped your franchise and other Bufu franchises that have been garbage because he's made spectacular plays. He was due for one. And Darnell Mooney will eventually make that play when, on the run. But we know they're there. We know he's got the touch. Your team just looks now like, hey, whether they win or lose, we're going to see a young quarterback develop. And it looks like he has the goods. There was that play where he ran it in for a first down. Not just a touchdown, but he ran it in for the first down to ice the game. For all intents and purposes, like, that's a big play. That's a clutch play. I said this on the radio show. I like some of the things that he does when it comes to his intelligence on the field. When he's seen a coverage and he calls a blitz. And yeah, they had a penalty, but like, you saw that he knew it was coming. That he's smart enough. He got asked by a reporter one of the coverage breakdown or what he saw, and he was able to just rattle it off because the man knows football. That's all he does is eats and dissect and digest football. He's got a lot of the it factor. He's got a lot of the goods. He's going to make mistakes. That's the one thing you got. But regardless of it, the Chicago Bears now, one way or another, and the way the Green Bay Packers are, they're as good as they look like on Monday night, but they're not going to have Aaron Rodgers next season. We'll see what happens with Jordan Love. Detroit has been in some games, but sorry, Lions fans, we'll see. And Minnesota has a coach on the hot seat, and they're putting up points, but boy, oh boy, the Bears in just the third week are now a story in the NFL because of Justin Fields, and he's got a lot of the goods. And we'll see. He's got all the tools and a star that you would hope for when you're building a prospect. And this league's got a lot of good ones. So it's fun to see that the Bears are there. It's going to be a tough matchup against Cleveland. I don't think they're going to win. Cleveland's banged up. I don't think the Bears are going to win over there. But if you're able to win that game, you got Detroit coming up, things are looking good. And if Matt Nagy is able to be this offensive guru and actually put a game plan for Justin Fields, and if this defense I don't think it's a world beater of a defense. I think they had a really good get-right game last week, even against a dangerous quarterback like Joe Burrow. I think if they're able to just kind of hold off their end, you're going to have moments where Justin Fields bails out this Bears team and they win. And that's fun. But for right now, it is going to be the first test for Justin Fields. I want to know your thoughts, though. What do you think Justin Fields is the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears? Did you think it would be this time around of the season? Did you think it would be a little bit later? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Let me know your thoughts. Justin Fields is now QB1 for the Chicago Bears. I'm all over the universe. Hit me up. I'm on Twitter at MikeMedia, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and of course, be interactive with the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Hit that little bell and subscribe button to be notified every single time we upload a brand new episode. We're on Roku at The Rewind Sports 60. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves, patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves, and facebook.com/Mercado Airwaves. Make sure you guys do us a huge favor. Check out the radio show, The Sports Cubicle, on WCPT 820 AM Chicago. We're on TuneIn, on YouTube, over here on the YouTube channel, and of course on SoundCloud at WCPT 820. Keep up to date with all that. We'll be uploading a brand new episode this Sunday after Bears versus Browns. Thank you guys so much. It's a busy week. Your boy is getting married in a few days, so we'll have one more episode of our Week 3 picks, and then I am off to Marriage Land. I will see you guys next time. Enjoy all their games. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We will see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado.